Hello, good day everyone, and welcome to our online information session on
Dzień dobry.
operators, drivers, and social partners with a focus on passenger transport, organized by the European Labour Authority, or short ELA, and the Confederation of Organisations in Road Transport Enforcement, or short CORTE. Before we start with our event, let me quickly run you through some technical aspects. The presentations and discussions will be held in English. We do, however, provide for live interpretation into German, Polish, Czech, Slovak, and Dutch. You can access the interpretations using the option Interpretation, which you can find below the video in the lower left-hand side of the window. As we are using live interpretation, dear speakers, please do not rush and allow for smaller breaks between your different topics, since that would be really helpful. I hope that you can see and hear us well. In case you experience some technical issues during this session, please reach out to the technical support team. You can do that by using the chat feature. You can find the chat button marked with a small cloud icon in the lower right-hand corner of the window. After clicking on the chat button, you should select Tech Support Chat Thread in order to send a message to technical support team. My name is Ivan Mekinda, and I work in the Information and Awareness Unit at ELA. We are an EU agency which contributes to ensuring fair and effective labor mobility across the EU, and we assist member states and the European Commission in the coordination of social security system in the EU. Road transport is a very important pillar of our work. Lots of work for us to do there, especially in the information unit, where we aimed at facilitating access to information and services for mobile workers and their employers. So, in road transport, our target groups are therefore drivers and operators. But before we dive into the first presentation, let me give the floor to my colleagues, Tonio Bur and Ivona Kašpiksova from ELA, as well as the Katarzyna Kuske from DG Move of the European Commission, who is also following this session, to say a few welcoming words for the introduction. Tonio, if I could ask you to take the floor, please.
Yes, you can. Thank you, Ivan. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the second online information session on road transport social legislation for operators, drivers, and social partners, with a focus on passenger transport. My name is Tonio Bör, and I work for the European Labour Authority. Ivan has already mentioned, we call it ELA, and together with our partner CORTE, which is the Confederation of Organisations in Road Transport Enforcement, we have organized these very practice-oriented online sessions about the social aspects of mobility package 1. I would like to extend welcome to our experts who are, together with you, the participants, the most important people today, as they will guide us through the complexities of driving and rest time rules, posting of drivers, and social security aspects in road transport. With this event, we're also collaborating with the social partners in road transport, namely the European and national employer associations, as well as the European and national road transport unions. I look very much forward to hearing their views on the topics which we are covering today. The online event today is actually part of a larger project which consists of 4 training courses for enforcers. That's not what you are participating in today. And 4 online information sessions for drivers, operators, and social partners. That is where we are today. And both the training courses and the online information sessions put the spotlight on Mobility Package 1 and what it means for passenger transport. The 4 online info sessions each focus on a different target region in Europe. Today, we invited participants from Germany, Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, Austria, the Netherlands, and Liechtenstein. Once again, welcome everyone, and I hope you will profit from what we have prepared for you today. It is now my pleasure to hand over to my colleague Ivona Kašpiksova, who is the brain behind this great initiative. Ivona, please.
Thank you, Tonio. I'm glad to be called the brain, but there are many more brains behind this session. So, yes, also on my behalf, good morning if it's not morning anymore. Dzień dobry to all my connationals and other operators and drivers who are also present here today at this meeting. We are very happy to have you on board, that you dedicated these 2 hours and a half of your time to these sessions, because as you know, road transport for Ella is one of the most important sectors that we dedicate our activities to. So with these sessions, we not only would like to show you what are the novelties and what are the rules that are still to some extent new, because even if it's mobility package 1, the application of these rules is not older than, let's say, 5 to 3 years. So first of all, we would like to treat these sessions as a dialogue with you. So I would encourage everyone to use chat option to actually tell us, more questions if you have not communicated any of them at the moment of registration, but also to whatever you hear our speakers explaining. If you could tell us, let's say, either you have a comment and you would like to comment on your experience with regards to what you hear, or if you have a question, we will do our utmost to actually take on board whatever is either at this stage or later on, what is in the chat. What is also important is that we have analyzed that the online meetings are the best format of meeting with you, because you are very, let's say, busy people and you have a lot of work as well. And we thought that maybe organizing an online session would actually, allow you more to stay updated with the rules. So that's the format that we think is more adapt to you. But please let us know if you also agree with it. The choice of the three topics that you heard Tonio mention, so the driving and rest time, with regards to the novelties for the passenger transport, we think it was very important to also update you on what are the derogations for the occasional passenger transport and how to understand them correctly in practice. The scenarios when it comes to the posting rules in passenger transport, and last but not least, some introduction to the social security rules and the famous PDA1 document when it comes to your drivers in the road transport sector. So these three topics, they will be treated. It's just 2 hours and a half, but hopefully to quite a concise extent, so that you understand where you stand and whether you are, let's say, whether you have the grasp of all the legislation that is there. As you heard, we also are here, we're not here alone. We are also with our CORTE colleagues, who is an expert organization in the sector of road transport. And it's important for Ella to join forces with, important actors in the field. We also can rely on our cooperation with IRU colleagues and with ETF, who are very important for us to understand, to have this dialogue with the operators and with the drivers, because it's actually you using this rule. So it's very important for us to understand what is your feedback on them. What is important, just, I'm not going to be speaking too much. We, of course, would like to continue with these exercises. It is our second time that we come to you with this exercise, with the online sessions, and we would like to continue to have like a yearly meeting with the operators and with the drivers. We hope that this format, as I said, is the one that allows you to, benefit from these direct contacts with Ella. But should you think of any topics that are important for you, so that Ella treats in the field of road transport, social legislation in road transport, please also feel free to write in the chat and tell us whether there is any specific topic you would like Ella to dedicate a session to in the coming years. So with that, I thank you, because there's a lot to say and a lot of nice presentations ahead of you. So I will not take more of your time. And now I think we give the floor to our colleague Katarzyna Kuske from the European Commission, DG Move. Katarzyna, I pass the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Ivana. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Katarzyna Kuske, working in European Commission DG Move in unit on road sector and responsible for the EU rules on driving and rest times and posting of drivers. These rules are part of mobility package, which is making the EU road transport sector more fair, safe, efficient and sustainable, especially regarding social and working protection for drivers. It is important to ensure the consistent application of the rules and their efficient enforcement. The information and training sessions organized by ELA are very important in this context, and I would like here to thank ELA colleagues and other colleagues, transport experts, for their work in this field. As you may know, the core of the rules on driving at rest times and posting of drivers that applies regardless of whether they concern freight or passengers transport. However, as passenger transport has different characteristics than freight transport, there are specific rules on passenger transport. This is the case of the directive on posting of drivers. It's also the recent revision of Regulation 561 from 2006, which introduced this is the revision adopted in April last year, which introduced specific rules on driving and rest times for the occasional passenger transport sector, as this sector has different characteristics compared not only with freight transport, but also with regular passenger transport. And this revision introduced a more flexible distribution of breaks and rest periods and equal treatment between international and domestic occasional passenger transport operations. I would like to highlight that this revision did not introduce any changes to the minimum duration of breaks or rest periods or to the maximum driving times. And I would like to also to inform you that we in the Commission are finalizing the guidance on the new rules on occasional passenger transport services, and we will publish the guidance document hopefully very soon. Thank you very much. That's all for the moment on my side.
Thank you, Katarzyna, for your kind words, and I would also like to thank Ivona and Antonio as well. My task today will be to guide you through the following, what we expect to be 2.5 hours of this session, in which we will focus on three topics, or the three aspects, which Ivona and Antonio already mentioned. For all of the mentioned topics, we will hear experts summarizing the most relevant rules, followed by testimonials of those rules put into practice by representatives of the European Transport Workers Federation, or ETF, and the International Road Transport Union, or IRU. If I could kindly ask for the AV support to provide us with the agenda of the event. Okay, could you please confirm that you can see the presentation?
Not yet.
Who is sharing?
Not for the moment, I can say. No.
Okay, maybe I should just continue, and in the meanwhile, I would kindly ask for the AV support to share the presentation with us. And if you could please share the agenda slide at the moment. So, considering our very ambitious agenda and the very limited time and the large amount of participants we have today, we have put in place the following questions policy. As you can see, you are all muted, and for some of you, your video is turned off. Please stay like this throughout the whole session. If you have questions, as my colleague Ivona already mentioned, please put them into the chat. I would like to remind you that you can find the chat button marked with a small cloud icon in the lower right-hand corner of the window. Please note that since we allowed posting questions in advance through registration form, we would address questions in chat in case there will be enough time. We would like to thank you all of you who submitted questions in advance. Those questions are certainly useful, and we have selected the most relevant ones to answer during this info session. I would also like to inform you that today's presentation will be available on the ELA website from tomorrow. If you would like to access it, please use the link which you could find in the chat, and in a couple of short seconds, my colleague will also place the chat in place the link in the chat. Sorry. I would also like to use this opportunity to welcome all our speakers and experts. It is great to have you on board for this important event. Also, additionally, please note that the session will be recorded, and in case you don't want to appear, just turn off your video. Okay, thank you. I can see the presentation now. Okay, so enough of me talking. It's time to get started with the presentation. First up today, we have my colleague Tonio Boer, who already said a couple of welcoming words at the beginning, but who will also, in a very concise manner, present ELA's activities in the area of road transport. So, Tonio, going back to you.
Thanks again, Ivan. I will start right away with the presentation. Please change to the next slide. I can maybe start already. What I'm planning to do is to give you a short overview of what ELA is, what it stands for, and why we are relevant for you as a driver, but also why we're relevant to operators and social partners engaged in international road transport. After my presentation, we are moving into the actual knowledge transfer, and experts will explain to you the rules connected to driving and rest times posting and social security provisions in road transport. All of us will show slides, which we will automatically send to you after this online session. So don't worry, take notes, but do remember you will also get the full slide set sent to you by email. Okay, next slide, please. The European Labour Authority, it's one of the newest EU agencies. We are a so-called supervisory and implementing authority, and we're located in Bratislava, that's in Slovakia, and we were only founded in 2019 with the main goal of facilitating labor mobility, like, for example, the possibility for passenger transport operators and their drivers to offer their services EU-wide. We make sure that the European Union's rules on labor mobility are applied in a fair, simple, and effective way to help strengthen fairness and trust in what we call the most precious good, and that is the EU internal market. We do this through 3 pillars that you can see on the slide, and these pillars reflect the main areas of work at ELA. You can see we have the information pillar. This is where I work, and where our main goal is to facilitate access to information and services. It focuses on improving knowledge and understanding of information needs related to this intra-EU labor mobility, and we organize events like this one. But we also produce information materials like flyers and videos. I will tell you more about those and where you can find them in a second. Or we help to improve websites of national administrations, for example, on the rules which apply in international road transport. You can see in the middle, there's the cooperation pillar. It supports cooperation and information exchange between member states and various stakeholders, and aims to foster collaboration and strengthen networks for cross-border cooperation in the application and enforcement of labor mobility rules. My colleagues there, for example, organize an intensive training course for enforcers of road transport rules, for example, roadside inspectors, which takes place, I think, tomorrow and the day after. And I'm sure that some of the questions that you have submitted will also be looked at the training courses, at these as these constitute valuable information from the ground. My colleague Ivona has mentioned it, so we are always interested to hear about your pain points and questions. The last pillar is the enforcement pillar. It enhances cross-border enforcement of labor mobility regulations. It involves coordinating inspections and enforcement actions across member states to ensure compliance with labor laws and regulations. Next slide, please. So here are a couple of our activities in the road transport sector. We organize local information events. They can be on-site, they can be online, they're in different member states, and they target drivers, operators, and social partners like today, and usually cover different aspects of labor mobility in road transport, like, for example, the rules pertaining mobility package 1. It's available in all EU languages. Also, the campaign materials that you can see in the middle. We have a campaign called Road to Fair Transport. It consists of videos, leaflets, infographics, posters, and resources, again, available in all EU languages. And we do things like review of national websites and EU portals. Next slide, please. I would now like to acquaint you with a couple of very practice-oriented resources. They can help you understand the rules of Mobility Package 1. You can see on this slide some of the most important resources. You can see our flyers. They concern different rules, for example, driving and rest times, but also posting rules, again, available in all EU languages, and even a couple of relevant non-EU languages. They can all be downloaded for free on our website. And you can also see the logo of Your Europe here on the slide. It's the general website of the European Commission for individuals and companies. And if you click on those pictures, as I said, we will send you the slides. And if you then click on the pictures, you will automatically be directed to the respective resource. I will explain some of the material in more detail. But please keep in mind, once again, we have it in all languages and it's accessible free of charge. Next slide, please. So if you click on the Your Europe logo on the previous slide, it will lead you to the webpage on EU rules for working in road transport, and you can find details about all relevant aspects of these rules. You can see on the left-hand side the different topics ranging from driving and rest times, use of the tachograph, posting, and information on the minimum wage, which applies to postal workers. Very important. Remember, the minimum wage which applies to postal workers. Again, this website is available in different languages. Next slide, please. The next resource is our website, ELA's website. It has a special section on the social aspects of international road transport, and the slide shows you how to navigate to the relevant topics. Next slide, please. So what do we do on our website? We make available information on the legal background of the provisions in force. In the road transport sector, you can see the legal framework consists of so-called directives and regulations. Just as a quick reminder, an EU regulation is a law that applies directly and uniformly across all EU member states. That means once it's passed, it becomes law automatically in every country without needing any changes. It's like a rule that everyone in the EU must follow exactly as it is written. On the other side, we have EU directives. It's a law that sets goals for EU member states to achieve, but each country can decide how to implement it. It's like giving everyone the same destination, but allowing them to choose their own route to get there. So in summary, regulations are like strict rules that everyone must follow exactly, while directives are more flexible and allow countries to decide how to meet the goals set by the EU. So this website will also guide you to the campaign materials of Road to Fair Transport. This is the campaign I talked about earlier, and there are flyers and videos, and you can all access it from here. Next slide, please. Here you can see the official website of the European Commission on Mobility Package 1, and you can find it all in there. Definitions, explanations, the specifications on the applicable European rules. Also, and I can recommend this quite a lot, there is a comprehensive FAQ section. It has answers to some very relevant questions which many of you might have already asked yourself when on the road or when planning a route. Next slide, please. Also relevant is the entry point to the so-called Road Transport Posting Declaration Portal. It's a useful special feature in road transport, which I believe many other economic sectors are jealous of. It gives you the possibility to submit posting declarations or posting notifications for all EU countries in one central location with one login. It's the Road Transport Posting Declaration platform. Next slide, please. Maybe another very relevant resource for you is Eurus, because a very pressing issue in international road transport is finding skilled drivers. And ELA hosts Eurus, which is the European Employment Service. It's a cooperation network designed to facilitate the free movement of workers within the EU member states, plus Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. It helps people find jobs, and it also helps employers find workers across Europe. On this and the next slide, we are showing the necessary steps to use the portal. As an employer, for example, you can search candidates according to your preset needs. And as an employee, you can upload your CV and create a profile so that potential employers can find and hire you. Next slide, please. This is just to show you how you can access Eurus. Everything is linked, so you just need to click on it. Prerequisite for using many EU services like Eurus is a so-called EU login. It's a free one-time registration, and it gives you access to many of our different EU services. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see Solvit. It's a free service provided by the EU to help citizens and businesses to resolve problems they encounter with public authorities in another EU country. Solvit can help, for example, if you're facing unfair rules or decisions from public authorities in another EU country, or if your EU rights are being breached and you haven't taken the case to court yet. It works in a way that you can submit your problem online through the Solvit website, but you can also reach out to one of the many Solvit centers in your country. It gives you legal background information, and if need be, reminds national authorities of your EU rights, and then Solvit works with them to fix the issue. Next slide, please. This is the last slide. It's a friendly invitation to support ELA, to support us in understanding your informational needs so that we can generate activities and support which really help you. So we are regularly conducting studies about you as the end user of labor mobility, and we need to understand what you need and how we can support you better. So this slide shows you how you can participate in our studies. Just send us an email and we will guide you to the right study. Next slide, please. This is it. Thank you very much for your attention. If there's anything, please just drop us a mail. Thank you very much. And I think I now hand over to Hans Dreyer. He's a senior expert at CORTE, and he will give us an input about the driving and rest times in passenger transport. Hans, please.
Thank you, Tonio. Yes, my name is Hans Dreyer. I'm a former senior inspector of the Dutch Traffic Inspectorate for almost 50 years. And now I am an advisor for CORTE. And today I'd like to show you something about the new, about the new, the new changes in the regulation 561. You can see it all. Then I go on.
Yes, Hans, we can see the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So first, what I want to say is the reason for special rules for occasional passengers transport. Why are there changes between goods transport and passengers transport? Now, for example, high seasonality and different lengths of time spent driving, varying driving distances depending on touristic activities, and accommodate passenger needs, unscheduled stops and changes of route or schedule. And what we see a lot is when you have a journey of 8 days, that especially the first and the last days are driven more than during the journey itself. So there is a reason to change some of the articles. And what we like to talk about today is the articles where there is a change for occasional passenger transport. For example, the brakes. As you know, after 4.5 hours driving, you should have a break of 45 minutes, and that could be splitted. That is one of the changes. The daily rest. As long as I was an inspector on the road, I always knew that there need to be 11 or 9 hours rest within every 24 hours. Now, what I see now is that you can take rest in 25 hours. I come back on that and explain it accordingly. And then the weekly rest, actually, here is not much changed. For the change, it was only for international transport, international passengers transport, and now it's also possible for national passengers transport. But to understand these changes, it's first important to understand what is occasional passengers transport. And for this, we must consider the regulation 1073/2009. And this regulation defines regular services and occasional services. Here you see it in the definitions, Article 2, and I have to read it a little bit. Regular services means services which provide for the carriage of passengers at specific intervals along specific routes, passengers being picked up and set down at predetermined stopping points. And then you have the special regular services. Actually, it's the same, only for specified categories of passengers, for school transport or driving workers to a factory. And then we have the occasional services, and that's where we're talking about today, means services which do not fall within the definitions of regular services, and the main characteristic of which is the carriage of groups of passengers constituted on the initiative of the customer or the carrier himself. And then now we know what the occasional passenger transport is. Now we come to Article 7 of the Regulation 561, and Article 7 is talking about uninterrupted driving time. It says, after driving period of 4.5 hours, a driver shall take an uninterrupted break of not less than 45 minutes, unless he takes a rest period, the daily rest period. This break may also be splitted in 15 minutes, followed by 30 minutes. This is what, until the change of the occasional passenger transport, was always the case. But for the driver engaged in an occasional passenger service, the break referred to in the first paragraph, the 4.5 hours, may also be replaced by 2 breaks of at least 15 minutes each, distributed over the driving period referred to in the first paragraph, and that's the 4.5 hours, in such a way as to comply with the provisions of this first paragraph. Now, if you look at the key takeaway, in addition to the current situation, a current option of the splitting, the break into 15 plus 30 minutes is possible. Allows any combination in 2 breaks, at least 15 minutes, we said. 21 plus 24 is also 45. 19 plus 26 also. And under the condition that the minimum duration of each split break should be at least 15 minutes, and that the 2 breaks together should amount at least 45 minutes. Now, I give you some examples. Assume we drive for 1 hour, then take 15 minutes break, 3.5 hours driving, and 30 minutes break. And now it says the next calculation starts after the second break of 30 minutes. Now about this next calculation, I will say in a few slides something more. After that, we have to calculate afresh. This is allowed in all types of transport. So goods transport, but also for the occasional passenger transport. A next example, 5 minutes driving, 30 minutes break, 4.5 hours, 4 hours and 25 minutes driving, and 50 minutes break. And here, in occasional passenger transport, the next calculation starts after the second break of 15 minutes. But if you do this in the transport of goods, you see that you make an infringement. This is not allowed. Allowed only in occasional passenger transport. You see the first break is at least 15 minutes and the second break is also at least 15 minutes. But if you look at the driving times, you see a driving times of 4 hours and 25 minutes. And also, after the second break, you see a driving time of 4 hours and 30 minutes, with only a break of 15 minutes. And that is because of a court case, what was in the year, I thought it was 91. I don't know. I come back on that. Here is the 92 it was. So this is the Charlton case. And here is a case where a court decided how to enforce. You have to enforce on 2 points. First, when to start, and there the court says, at the moment the driver starts driving, and when to stop and calculate again at the moment when you found the 45 minutes in one piece or 15 minutes plus 30 minutes, for example. So starting when driving and calculating again when you have found the 45 minutes. Another one. 5 minutes driving, 30 minutes break, 4 hours and 25 minutes driving, 50 minutes break. Here you see that the next calculation starts after the second break of 15 minutes. And then 4 hours and 30 minutes driving again. Here, in the transport of goods, as just what I just explained, and regular passengers transport, the next calculation starts after the second break. And this is a big infringement, because that would mean an infringement of 9 hours with only a break of 8 hours and 55 minutes with only a break of 15 minutes. Now, the wiping the slate clean differs in occasional passengers transport and other types of transport. You see occasional passengers transport after the 15 minutes and the transport of goods later after 30 minutes. And here you see that the problem with the calculation rules used for goods and regular passengers transport is the possibility to drive 8 hours and 55 minutes, driving allowed with only a break of 15 minutes. So the above example is an infringement in case of goods transport and regular passengers transport, but it's okay for the occasional passengers transport. Then but you also have 1 hour driving, 25 minutes, 3.5 hours driving, and now we have 4.5 hours driving with 20 minutes break. Together, it's at least 15 minutes, and together it's 45 minutes. So it's wiping the slate clean, they say, and you have to start again the next calculation after the second break of 20 minutes. And this, again, is only allowed in occasional passenger transport. And how do we check this? I presume that the software producers will find something to calculate this in case it is occasional passenger transport or it is goods transport. But until now, if we see as enforcers that these kinds of breaks are committed, then we look at the journey form to see how, if it is indeed occasional passenger transport or not. So then Article 8 is the next change in the regulation. Article 8, the daily resting time, it says a driver shall take daily and weekly rest periods. And then what it always was, in each period of 24 hours, you should take a daily rest of at least 9 hours. If it is 9 hours, it is a reduced daily rest. If it is 11 hours, it's a regular daily rest. Something is added here. If you see, you can see that provided that road safety and the working conditions of the driver are not jeopardized, a driver in a single occasional passenger service, one service over several days, one single service, with a duration of at least 6 consecutive 24-hour periods, may derogate from paragraph 2. So, and paragraph 2 was the daily resting time in 24 hours. But now he can derogate from that by taking the daily rest period once within a maximum of 25 hours. That means that he has a daily spread what is a little bit longer as the normal situation, provided that the accumulated driving time for that day has not exceeded 7 hours. So there is a condition. You can do that once if you have a journey of 6 consecutive 24 hours, you can once take the rest in 25 hours, provided that the accumulated driving time for that day has not exceeded 7 hours. Now, if you have a journey of 8 consecutive 24 hours, you can do this twice. So you can here look at the takeaways. The articles refers to single occasional passenger service, means one single trip of occasional passengers transport and not several trips together done occasionally. Coach tourism drivers engaged in trips of 6 days and more can extend once, twice for trips of 8 days and longer. The daily spread to 14 or 16 hours. Currently, it's 15 hours. In a period of 24 hours, when you have in this period 11 hours rest, you can work for 13 hours. If you have 9 hours rest, you can work for 15 hours. The total work. And now that is changed in 14 and 16. But the accumulated driving time during that day should be 7 hours or less. The derogation can be used anytime during the trip of the minimum of 6 days, and it's applicable for single manning but not for multi-manning. So what we have is an example. We have a daily or weekly rest period, and we start working and braking, working, driving in this case. And then we have a rest of a minimum of 9 hours, and the next period of daily activity starts over there. But we see here that this should be the working time, the driving time, the breaks and so on, should be, and the rest, of course, should be in a maximum period of 24 hours. And this now, for the occasional passenger transport, can be done in 25 hours. Condition, the maximum of 7 hours driving time. Additional conditions, it has to be a single occasional passenger service limited to 7 hours. And here you have the permissible number of times to use that change, and that's the length of the service. If it is up to 6 times 24 hours, it's not possible. But journeys from 6 times 24 hours and up to 8 times 24 hours, you can use this once, and from 8 or more, 8 times 24 hours, you can use it twice. And then we have the last change. Actually, this change was always there. Going instead of after taking a weekly rest after 6 times 24 hours, you may postpone the weekly rest up to 12 consecutive hours. And provided that, and there comes a lot of things that you have to take care of. But if you see A, you see that this is deleted. And this A means that it can only be done in international journeys. As this is deleted, also if you are French, a French passengers transport, then you can go from the south of France to the north of France, and it still is possible to postpone the weekly rest up to 12 consecutive hours. What you should do, the conditions, the driver takes after the use of the derogation either 2 regular weekly rest periods or one regular weekly rest period and one reduced weekly rest period of at least 24 hours. However, if you do that, a reduced weekly rest period, then you should compensate it by the end of the third week. After the 1st January 2014, it's 10 years ago already, the vehicle is equipped with a recording equipment in accordance with the requirements of the Annex 1B. In other words, analog is not possible, but digital, it should be a digital tachograph. And after the 1st of January 2014, if the driving during the period from 2200 hours in the evening until 6 o'clock in the morning, the vehicle is multi-manned, or the driving period referred to is multi-manned, or the driving period referred to in Article 7 is reduced to 3 hours. Now, we have the key takeaways, but what I like to show you, then you see it in once. If you have a regular weekly rest, and after that, a maximum period of 12 times 24-hour period, and a regular weekly rest period after that, plus another one, or reduced blood but compensated later, then you may do this with an additional requirement. It should be a digital or a smart tachograph. It should be one occasional passenger service, and it should be limited to 3 hours unless multi-manned. Show like this. And the 3 hours, one thing I have to say, what I saw in the previous time, that these are conditions. This 3 hours uninterrupted driving time, if you see that 3 hours uninterrupted driving time, that is not an infringement on its own. It's a condition. Means if you, as one driver, drive more than 3 hours, then the maximum period of 24 hours should be not more than six times. You go back to the normal regulation. Yes. Now, how do we check it? For the purpose of roadside check, until a digital journey form is available, the driver shall be able to justify the use of the derogation under Article 7, the third paragraph, Article 8, 2, and 6, the daily and the weekly rest, by carrying on board the vehicle a completed journey form containing all the information. So if you do these changes, you need to have a journey form with you. But if you have done that before, it's also needed that you have the journey forms or the electronic copies of such forms for the previous 56 days. And this obligation for the previous 56 days shall cease to apply at the latest when the vehicle uses a tachograph allowing the recording of the type of passenger service referred to in paragraph 5. So this you can do it, then it's over. If the tachograph allows the recording of the type of passenger transport, then you don't have to have for 56 days these electronic copies with you. And for national services, the journey form for international services may be used, indicated its use for national service. Again, over the digital journey form, no later than the 31st of December 26, the Commission shall assess the options for digitalizing the journey form for drivers engaged in occasional passenger service in terms of feasibility, cost effectiveness, and its impact on enforceability and working conditions of drivers. The assessment shall cover the development of a digital journey form containing the information required in accordance with the regulation 1073. It's a lot of words, but that is in the future. So to ensure uniform application and I say harmonized enforcement of Article 7, third paragraph, and the Articles 8, the Commission shall, at the latest by the 23rd of November this year, adopt acts laying down appropriate technical specifications that enable the recording and storage on the tachograph of data relating to the type of passenger service, namely regular or occasional passenger service. And then my last slide, what we talked about is, of what I talked about, is breaks, daily rest, and the weekly rest. And if there are, you get these slides after the presentation. And if you have any questions, I will hear them later on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you for this interesting and concise presentation. And indeed, we will come back to you, but a bit later for the
I was a little bit afraid of that, yeah.
For the discussion point, yes. In the meanwhile, we would like to dive a bit deeper into the topic of the driving and rest time rules and hear a short report about the experience of the relevant Road Transport Association on how these rules have been put into practice. It is with great pleasure that I now introduce to you Guy van Hifte from ETF, which is the European Transport Workers Federation, a pan-European trade union organization representing the interests of workers in road transport. Guy, if you are ready, please start with your report.
I'm ready, Ivan. I hope you understand me.
Yeah, we can hear you
You
loud
can
and clear.
understand me also, no problem. Thanks first of all for the invitation from Ella for us, ETF, to participate in this meeting. Of course, we have a few remarks, and not only remarks, but a few things that we regret that in this new legislation, who is already a few years there, like Ivona has said, that there is a consideration concerning the passengers. But from time to time, we have also a doubt about what's possible, when the drivers are taken in the head here. But we don't going to give any negative remarks on this. We only want to spread this out. At the opposite side, when I was looking to Hans, and it's already the third or fourth time that I hear this presentation, I have some doubts when the drivers of buses and coaches are correctly informed and know that what is the complexity of these problems, because these rules are not the most simple ones. So Hans have needed 8-9 slides, and then he was telling what was in that slides, but are the normal drivers, are they know what the rules are? They are supposed to know the rules, but are they know the rules? Is there info enough? And then I was last week together with Ivan in an info session for truck drivers here in Belgium, in Wetteren, and the guys who were, when they were observers or when they were from IRU or from ETF or from the local unions, they have talked with the drivers, and there one of the conclusions were that a lot of guys who drive trucks, they don't know the rules. They know the rules, but they don't know them like they're supposed to be. At the opposite side, I believe this is also the case for bus drivers. And I want to play it here by Hella that they do the same campaign that they have done for truck drivers, like last week, the same kind of leaflets that they bring them out also for bus and coach drivers. I personally believe, after being 20 years and more myself a bus driver, that it's more than necessary when I talk at this moment still with my colleagues for where they come, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, wherever. So I played for that in the future we do an effort to bring this over also in a decent leaflet and at checkings special for bus and coach, because where I'm looking for in the name of ETF is for the safety for our colleagues, for our road users and tired guys and girls who've been behind the steer. It's not very good for our circumstances where we work in. Thank you very much, Ivan.
Thank you, Guy. And before I give the floor to Oleg Kampersky, let me just provide you with a short reflection on what you just mentioned. Thank you for this kind proposal, and we will definitely consider this because it will probably be beneficial. So now let me please say hello to Oleg Kampersky, who is Senior Consultant for Social Affairs at IRU, the International Road Transport Union, and they represent the interests of the operators. So, Oleg, please provide us with your view on this.
Yes, thank you, Ivan. We'll be two of intervening quickly, myself and my colleague from Germany, Sarah. I would like actually to address only one issue that was mentioned very well by Hans. Actually, this is the control of the specific derogations for bus and coach for coach tourism drivers, because of course the issues driving and rest time issues are quite different, that are salient and to be discussed about. They are different in freight and different in occasional passenger transport services. And to be fair, I think the derogations as they are today, they are underutilized, also because there is not a lot of clarity how they can be controlled and how to give actually legal certainty of the operators about the implementation. So the Katarzyna mentioned that DG Move is finalizing a guidance note on the implementation and enforcement of these derogations. This is a very good thing. I hope it will come sooner, because of course this guidance note will help operators and give them the necessary legal certainty to start making use of the derogations. One issue has to be probably clarified, if possible, during these in these guidelines, and this is the what is digital journey form. As you know, the Hans mentioned it. The drivers have to be able to show the paper form of the current journey form during a roadside check, but also they have the possibility. They have to show also the journey forms 56 days before. And these 56 days before, the journey forms can be paper, but they can be also digital. And we believe that, of course, a PDF format, a scan format, has to be accepted as a digital form. And that's something that I would plead that the guidance note of the Commission clarifies, so that it can be clear for everybody, operators and enforcers and drivers, how they can provide these evidence. So that's from my side for the moment. I'll come back also in the next exchange. Thank you.
Thank you, Oleg. Could we expect a couple of words from your colleague, from Sarah as well, or for the next topic of discussion?
I think she wanted to intervene, but let me see if she's there.
Yes, I am there. Can
Hi.
everyone see me? Hello, my name is
Yes.
Sarah.
Hi.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So there was a lot that has already been said on the points that I had. Main subject is the control of the electronic form of the journey form. What is most important, I think, for drivers and operators is that there is a uniform solution and not that, for example, France only accepts the paper form and that Italy accepts a PDF, but in Poland it's only a scan. What is very important for them is to really have a uniform and safe rule that is applicable in the whole of EU. And furthermore, there is also a wish from operators and drivers also to aspire to abolish completely the journey form. We don't see anything that would speak against it once the tachographs are able to record border crossings correctly, and also once they are able to differentiate between regular and occasional passenger transport. So yes, it's very sad because my colleagues have mentioned it, but I know it also from our members. They don't use the new DRT rules because of these administrative burdens. And I think it undermines the EU's work if they bring out legislation that is not being used. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your view and addressing this topic as well. And as I mentioned before, we did receive some questions in advance, and we would like to dedicate some time now to answer to some of the most relevant ones on this topic. I would like to ask our expert speakers to please be prepared to help us with the questions which we have prepared for this group. I will read the questions out loud, but we would also post them into the chat, so in case participants can't understand clearly what I read, we will have them in writing as well. So let me start with the first question, and I would kindly ask my ELA colleague Seamus Lynch from Enforcement and Analysis Unit to take the floor. So I will read the question out loud, and Seamus, if you could just join after that. So the question was, please delve into the, sorry for that part. So please delve into the DDT file analysis platform, or what we understood as the softwares actually. So Seamus, if you could please.
No. Thank you very much, Ivan. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. So in relation to the question about the analysis software, what I can say on that topic is that it is mandatory for each member state to equip their control authorities with downloading equipment and software that's capable of analysing the data recorded on both the vehicle unit and the driver card. It also must be, when it's copied, this data, when it's copied, it's also copied along with a digital signature, which ensures the authenticity of the data, and it's basically to inform the control officers that it hasn't been tampered with, or none of the data has been lost. That's it really, other than that there are actually stipulated frequencies as well at which the data has to be downloaded. In relation to vehicle units, it must be downloaded at least once every 90 days. And in relation to the driver card, it must be downloaded at least once every 28 days. Now, some member states may have individual rules where they might make those periods shorter, but the regulation specifies 90 days for the VU and 28 days for the driver card. Plus, it must be kept for a period of 12 months and made available on inspection to the inspection authorities. So that's really all there is to say, I think, unless anybody has anything else.
Thank you, Seamus, for this. And we still have another question, and that one is regarding tachographs as well. So is there a plan to enable tachographs to record when a trip is classified as occasional in order to prevent misuse?
No. Yeah, as you heard earlier from Hans, the DG Move Commission are currently working on amending the technical annex to the tachographs to facilitate the recording or the driver being able to distinguish between regular and passenger services. So there's an expert working group at the moment which are engaged in discussions, and these discussions should be finalised by November 2025. So there will be a new tachograph which will be specific to vehicles engaged in passenger transport, and then thereafter within these new types of tachographs, the driver will be able to identify when he's engaged in an occasion of passenger service. He should be able to identify the moment it starts and the moment that it ends. So that's the answer to that question.
Thank you, Seamus, once again. And we have additional 2 questions concerning similar topics, so I would kindly ask Hans to help us answering this one. So Hans, if you could rejoin, so let me first read the question. The first question is, do all countries consider the payment of a lump sum for sanitary purposes and the lump sum for overnight stay to be a sufficient way for the employer to cover these costs? Should the driver in such a situation present the receipt?
Yes, okay. I don't know what the countries are doing, but what I know is that the companies are responsible for covering the cost of these sanitary purposes or overnight stays. So that's for the employer. But should the driver in such situation present a receipt, that is tricky because they don't have to. I assume that if I ask a driver to give me a receipt, I can ask for it, and he give me the receipt. That's for him the best. But he's not allowed to. So if he don't want to give that receipt, we can't ask for as enforcer. You can't do anything. Okay.
Thank you, Hans, for providing this clarification. And for the second question, it's the following one: which measures would be most efficient in ensuring proper enforcement of driving and rest time regulation?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. To be as much as possible digitalizing, that we can see what is actually happening, and like all things, what happened, see where is the driver, where has he been, how long has he arrested, and that's all in the tachograph, and that should be as much as possible.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you for this answer as well. And we saw that Oleg has raised the hand. So Oleg, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you. To continue a little bit what Seamus said, rightly said about the specific features which will allow to make a difference between occasional and regular passenger transport. It is true that there is an obligation for the Commission to come up with an implementing act in November, and we are quite progressed on that, and I think it will come on time. But what does it mean in practice? It means that the act will be published in November. Then tachograph manufacturers will have some time to actually make it happen, and then the operators will have some time to actually introduce it in the tachographs they have already on board. And we evaluated this time to be something between 3 to 4 years, meaning that for 4 years almost after November, we will still need to check to have the journey forms on board and check them. That's why the importance of the issue of the digital journey form until the tachograph, the new tachograph comes into use, I would say, within the 3 to 4 years. That's important that this is clarified. What is a digital journey form and what can be accepted? And I can say that we are ready and open to make tests with the with the enforcers, so that we can make sure how this could be checked in practice. Thank you.
No, thank you for this reflection, Oleg, as well. And with this, we would close this discussion point and we would move to the next topic on our agenda. And basically, this one is regarding the posting of drivers in passenger transport. And for that, I would like to invite Artur Tocko, our expert speaker, who is a road transport inspector from the Provincial Road Transport Inspectorate in Poland. So, Artur, I see that you already started sharing your presentation. So, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ivan. Good afternoon. My name is Artur Tocko. I'm a road transport inspector from Poland. So I'm an enforcer that actually enforces the posting rules on daily basis on the roads only. So on the roads, we do not control remuneration at this stage. So I won't speak much about remuneration, only about the major rules that all the operators and the drivers have to fulfill if they are in scope of Lex Specialis directive. Okay, one sec, let me check. Okay, so before we dive deeper into specificalities of the posting of drivers engaged in passenger transport, let me quickly recap the main rules. So cabotage is always a posting situation. So doesn't matter is it done in a context of bilateral operation. Doesn't matter if there is a bilateral operation going on at the same time. So because there are some exception rules that requires the bilateral operation to be done in a context of other operation, that might be exemption, but not in this case. So cabotage is always a posting situation. On the other hand, bilateral operation, so the operation when it starts or ends in a member state of establishment of the operator, it's not a posting situation. There are also cross-strait operations, so the operations that does not start nor end in the member state of the establishment. For example, French operator carries goods or passengers from Germany to Poland. So as it doesn't start in the member state of establishment, we perceive such operation as a cross-strait operation. But in a legal text, you won't find this term cross-strait. There will be an international non-bilateral operation. Such operation requires the driver to be perceived as posted in both countries where he picks up passengers or set them down. If there's a transit leg of a cross-strait operation, that transit leg is exempt from posting rules. And also there are some exemption rules known as 0+2 and 1+1. 0+2 is the one dedicated only to carriage of goods. But 1+1 is allowed in both carriage of goods and passengers. There are certain requirements for those rules to be applicable. One of them is the tachograph that is fitted in the vehicle. So only if there is a G2 V2 tachograph in the vehicle, such a rule might be applicable. And also there must be a bilateral operation during a cross-strait operation. So let's start from the beginning. Let's say a French operator performs a carriage from France to Poland. And during that bilateral operation, he also performed a cross-strait operation, let's say, from Germany to Belgium. If it's done at the same time, such cross-strait operation that usually would be in scope of posting will be exempt from posting rules. And while returning back to the member state of establishment, it is also possible to do one cross-strait operation that will be exempt, but I will speak about it on further slides. Also, combined transport, so we're speaking about transport of goods, the initial or final leg of combined transport might be exempt from posting rules. It depends what is the nature of that initial or final leg. but only for transport of goods, so I won't speak too much about it. Transit, it is not a posting situation, regardless is it with goods or passengers or with an empty vehicle. Also, unladen journeys might be a posting situations. It depends. It depends what is the operation that follows that unladen journey. If unladen journey is a return of the vehicle back to the member state of establishment, such unladen journey is not a posting situation. But on the other hand, if there is a unladen journey towards the loading point or towards the point of picking up passengers, and that carriage with passengers is in scope of posting, that unladen journey that precedes that laden journey is also in scope of posting. Although we won't find the information how to treat unladen journeys in directive, Lex Specialis directive, and also in a national legislation, there is not much about it. We draw such conclusion from the so-called Q&As, so the questions and answers provided to us by the expert group on posting of drivers, that are body that supports the Commission in this matter, and it is written there that such unladen journey might be a posting situation, but it depends what follows that unladen journey. So I will show now 3 scenarios related to occasional passenger transport. So as you can see on your left top corner, it's an operator from Czech Republic, and it will be occasional carriage of passengers, and we will start in Czech Republic in Prague, and we'll go through Poland, Germany, back to Czech Republic. So it's an occasional carriage of passengers. So we pick up passengers in Prague, and the first bus stop is in Warsaw. So let's say on a first day, we carry them from Czech Republic to Poland and set them down in a hotel. Next day, there is a local excursion throughout Warsaw. So even though on the second day, there is picking up and setting down of passengers in one member state, such local excursion won't be perceived as cabotage, as it is the same group that was previously brought from another member state. According to the regulation 1073 of 2009, such operation will be perceived as local excursion, and in your journey forms, the green forms, there is a special line where such operation must be indicated. After Warsaw, the trip goes further to Berlin and another local excursion. And again, it won't be perceived as cabotage, as that group was previously brought from another member state by the same carrier, and back to the member state of establishment of the operator where the passengers leave the coach. So that's our occasional round trip with local excursions in 2 host member states. Such operation won't create a posting situation at any stage, because it was one group brought from the member state and returned back. And those activities in Warsaw and Berlin, they won't be perceived as cabotages, only as local excursions that will be exempt from posting rules. Okay, now the operator is from Germany, but again, still occasional carriage of passengers. So we pick up passengers from Frankfurt. So we start our journey in the member state of establishment of the operator. And next stop is in Paris. Again, local excursion here, and 2 more local excursions. One in Bordeaux, and the third one in Lyon. After that, passengers finally leaves the vehicle, and the driver returns with an empty vehicle back to the member state of establishment. So as you can imagine, it is not a posting situation as well. It looks like a bilateral operation, and in fact it is. So regardless if the passengers will return with that coach back to the member state of establishment, or they will take another mode of travel, they will return on a plane, for example, that's fine. There is no posting throughout the entire journey. And the final scenario of occasional passenger transport I will show today is a bit more complicated. It's a bit different than the ones in goods transport. The operator is from the Netherlands. So that Dutch operator starts its journey in the member state of establishment with an empty coach. Then he enters territory of Germany and picks up passengers here. Then there is a local excursion in Belgium, one more in France, and the excursion coming back to the member state of establishment to the same point where we started. After that, passengers ends their trip and leaves the coach for the very last time. And the driver may come back to the member state of establishment. So as you can see, there is not much of a link between the member state of establishment and the service provided. Actually, the service is provided only to Germany, because it's a group taken from Germany and returned back to Germany. That's why the driver will be posted to Germany throughout the whole trip, even though he will be temporarily also in Belgium and France. And the posting begins from the moment of crossing Dutch-German border, and it will last till the moment the last passenger leaves the coach after that round trip. So most likely the Belgian and French authorities won't be able to check if the driver is properly declared as posted, but in Germany the enforcer will expect the driver to be posted throughout the whole trip and receive the right remuneration applicable to Germany, or if there will be a higher remuneration in the Netherlands, so then the Dutch remuneration also might be. Okay, a few more scenarios now related only to regular passenger transport. So there must be a authorization for a regular passenger line, the pink document. And we will assess the obligation to post the driver, the posting situation, through that authorization. The Q&As I mentioned earlier say that if the driver is engaged in a regular passenger transport, we expect that the operator will take full advantage of the rights given to him by the authorization, that if some such carriage is possible, according to the authorization, that the driver is engaged in that carriage. So we do not check if there were tickets sold on certain routes. If the authorization said it is possible to perform, let's say, cabotage during regular passenger line, we expect that such service will be provided. Cabotage, as I said, is a posting situation. So regardless if the tickets for that cabotage route were sold, we will expect the driver to be declared as posted on that stretch. And as there is no binding judgments of European Court of Justice at the moment, or any other administrative courts in this regard, all enforcers rely on the Q&As and the scenarios provided to us by the Commission. And they are also available for the operators and the drivers. That I will show the link where it is on the very last slide. The enforcer also want harmonized enforcement and I believe you, the operators, want to expect the same treatment in every member state. So that's the way we do it. Okay, it's a regular passenger transport. This time the operator is from Portugal. As you can see, there is a G2V2 tachograph, the newest tachograph till 18th of August this year. G2V1 tachographs are also allowed in international transport, but those G2V1s cannot be used if the operator wants to benefit from a 1+1 rule. But in fact, in here, there is a G2V2, and that's the example of the usage of 1+1 rule. So we start in Lisbon, Portugal, where the passengers are picked up. First bus stop in Madrid. Some passengers may live here. Some more might be picked up because there is one more bus stop in Bordeaux, France. That's the final bus stop, so passengers may only leave the vehicle here. And as you can see, it is possible to perform several different carriages on this route. From Lisbon to Bordeaux, that will be a bilateral operation. From Lisbon to Madrid, again, bilateral operation. Such operations are exempt from posting rules. Madrid-Bordeaux is a cross-strait route. Such operations, as a rule, is a posting situation. But if that operation from Madrid-Bordeaux is done in a context of a bilateral operation, in this example from Lisbon to Bordeaux, and on top of that there is a G2V2 tachograph in the vehicle, both driver and the operator may benefit from the 1+1 exception rule. So there is no posting requirement throughout the whole route. And as authorization for regular passenger line allows the operator to do the same route in an opposite direction, we will go back from Bordeaux to Lisbon now. So again, picking up passengers here, intermediate stop in Madrid. Some passengers from France may live here. Some more, the ones who want to go to Portugal, may be picked up here. And the final bus stop this time is in Lisbon. And again, that's the second part of our 1+1 rule. From Bordeaux to Lisbon, it is a bilateral operation. From Madrid to Lisbon, it's a cross-strait operation, but it's done in a context of a bilateral operation. And there is right tachograph in place. Exception might be applied here. So there is no posting throughout the whole journey. There might be some restrictions in the authorization for regular passenger lines. So if there will be a restriction, for example, that it is not allowed to perform a carriage in an opposite direction from Bordeaux to Lisbon, okay, we the enforcers, and I believe you and operators as well, we read the authorization in full. If something is not allowed, cabotage, for example, not allowed, we do not expect the driver to be posted. Okay, if it's allowed, we expect the driver to be posted. Okay, I believe that this scenario might be a bit complicated. There's a lot of going on the screen, so I prepared also some more clarification on further slides. So that's the same carriage that we saw on previous slide. We go from the member state of establishment, which is Portugal, to France. And there's an intermediate stop in another host member state, Spain. And there's a G2V2 tachograph in that vehicle. Final bus stop in Bordeaux. So it is possible that there will be three groups of passengers for that carriage. The ones who are picked up in Lisbon, they may go to intermediate bus stop in Madrid, the green ones, and some may want to go to Bordeaux, the final bus stop, but regardless where they want to go, they will always create a bilateral operation because they start their journey in the member state of establishment. The ones who are picked up in Madrid, they want to go to France, so they do not start and nor finish their journey in the member state of establishment. So the red ones from Madrid, they will create a cross-strait operation. So the ones who started in Lisbon, bilateral operation, because that's the member state of establishment of the operator. The ones who started their journey in Madrid, it is a cross-strait operation. And as this cross-strait operation is performed in a context of a bilateral operation from the member state of establishment, such operation will be exempt from posting rules. So that's our first part of 1+1 rule, our one cross-strait operation that is exempt. And now we are going back to the member state of establishment, to Lisbon. And this time, there is not as many passengers like there were in outgoing journey. So there are passengers that want to go from Bordeaux to Madrid and from Madrid to Lisbon. So as you can see, the passengers, the green ones, create kind of a cross-strait operation while there is no simultaneous bilateral operation. And as it is a regular passenger transport, again, we do not check tickets. Although we have powers to do so, we do not check evidence of tickets sold by the operator. We assume that also bilateral operation was performed from Bordeaux to Lisbon. So even though there was no passengers, we treat those that carriage from Bordeaux to Madrid as an exempted operation. So as you can see, such assessment through the authorization is beneficial for operators in this example. A quick summary of the 1+1 and 0+2 exemption rules. So it is only about cross-strait operations that might be exempt from posting rules, provided they are done in a context of bilateral operation. There's one more requirement. There must be a G2V2 tachograph used for that. 0+2 rule, it is applicable only to the transport of goods, not passengers. Cabotage operation, it is always a posting situation. So if that cabotage is performed while also performing bilateral operation, it will be a posting situation anyway. Another example of regular passenger transport, again, the vehicle is equipped with a G2V2 tachograph. This time we will start in Budapest, Hungary, and through Slovakia, Austria to Germany. So first bus stop in Bratislava, then Vienna, Salzburg, and finally Munich, Germany. So there is a bit more bus stops, a bit more possible carriages on that between those bus stops, and we have an assumption for this scenario that authorization for that regular line allows all possible combinations, all carriages between the bus stops. So in Budapest, some picking up of passengers on the intermediate bus stops, it is allowed to set down or pick up some more passengers, and final bus stop in Munich. So as you can clearly see now, there are two bus stops in one host member state, which is Austria. So it is possible to perform carriage between Vienna and Salzburg. As such carriage started and finished in one member state, it is a cabotage operation. So there will be posting here somewhere. Between Budapest at Bratislava, it is possible to perform only bilateral operations because the passengers, doesn't matter where they want to go, if they were picked up in Budapest, they will create a bilateral operation. Between Bratislava and Vienna, that's the first possible cross-strait operation, so the operation does not start nor finish in the member state of establishment. And there is a G2V2 tachograph. That means the operation between Bratislava and Vienna might be exempt from posting rules. And the beginning of posting is in Vienna, because further there is a cabotage and one more cross-strait operation between Salzburg and Munich. And only one in passenger transport is allowed during outgoing bilateral operation. And the posting lasts till the very last bus stop. Okay, one more explanation of the same scenario. So the same scenario we saw on the map a second ago. So there might be different choices of passengers where they want to go. And there is assumption that the authorization for a regular passenger line allows for any carriage between any bus stops. So the ones that started their journey in Budapest, they will create only bilateral operations. Such operations are always exempt from posting rules. The first cross-strait, so the first carriage does not start nor finish in the member state of establishment. We remember the operator is from Hungary. So the carriage from Bratislava to Vienna, that's the first cross-strait. And such cross-strait is done in a context of a bilateral operation. One more cross-strait from Bratislava to Munich, and the blue passenger travels from Vienna to Salzburg. It's a cabotage operation. Okay, now we are going back to the member state of establishment. So from the left, we go to the right. We start our journey in Munich. But let's imagine a situation when we pick up passengers on all bus stops and they all want to go to Budapest. So the operator will perform only bilateral operations because they all end in a member state of establishment of the operator. It doesn't matter because we assess the obligation to post the driver not through the ticket sold, as I said, but through the authorization. So we assume that if it is possible to perform a carriage from Munich to Salzburg, the operator will do it. And actually, that's the first cross-strait operation possible during returning bilateral operation. So that stretch from Munich to Salzburg will be our second part of 1+1 rule. So the posting starts from the moment of picking up first passenger in Salzburg because the passengers from here may travel on a cabotage route to Vienna. And the posting will last till Bratislava because afterwards there are only bilateral operations possible. And as you probably know, any or posting of rules of posting of drivers are treated in the same way as the rules in any other fields. So in case there will be something wrong with the posting declaration, you won't update it on time, or the driver won't be able to produce such a posting declaration, it may be penalized, and it will be also perceived as an infringement that have to be notified through European Register of Road Transport Undertakings, and such information about such infringement will be also sent to your national registers in your member state of establishment. As you can see, most of them, they are classified as very serious infringements, So make sure you treat this area of your obligations in the same way as the driving rest times or access to the market rules, because it's also important. In case you won't take care of it, it may lead that the authority in your member state will start administrative proceedings uh, to establish if you're still in a possession of good repute, because lack of good repute causes obligation to withdraw the community license from you. And as I mentioned earlier, there are some other sources of information about posting rules. So on the website of the European Commission, there are all scenarios, all Q&As. You may have also access to it. It's not only for the enforcers. And as it was mentioned earlier, the expert group on posting of drivers still works. So we expect more to come on this topic. Okay, thank you for your attention. I'm ready for your questions. I'm not sure is it the time, probably not. Thank you.
No, actually, thank you, Arthur, for this extensive presentation regarding various scenarios for posting of drivers in both regular and occasional passenger transport. In this respect, it is always important to understand the main differences between regular or occasional passenger transport. And with this, we could move to yet another interesting topic that will be presented by my ELA colleague, Daniela Vitine, who is a seconded national expert from Cooperation Support Unit on the topic of coordination of social security systems in road transport. So Daniela, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ivan. Let me just share my presentation. Do you see it? Okay, let me put it in the presenter's view. Okay, so in today's presentation, I will explain to you the concepts of posting and multi-state activity, and I will also explain why it is important for the driver to carry the A1 certificate with him when working across different EU countries. So when we talk about social security, the question is, what is social security system? This is a state system that provides financial support and provides access to benefits like family benefits, sickness benefits, pension benefits, unemployment benefits, etc. These are all examples of benefits that are provided based on the risks that a person faces throughout their life cycle, and they're also covered by EU regulation on coordination of social security systems. There is no single unified social security system within the EU. There is no harmonization within the EU. Each member state has its own national social security system, and the EU sets rules that coordinate these national social security systems and determine which social security system applies to a mobile worker. These rules prevent a situation in which a worker is not covered by any social security system at all, or a situation in which a worker is covered by multiple social security systems. The rules are mandatory both for the worker and for the company, and the worker and the company, they cannot choose or negotiate to find a better or more favorable social security system. But the rules are here to ensure clarity and both stability, both for workers and for the companies. So here you will find some of the key principles related to coordination of social security systems and determination of legislation applicable. And we'll talk about the two that are of your interest. And this is the principle of single applicable legislation and the main rule lex loci laboris. The single applicable legislation means that a person working across different EU countries, EU member states or EEA states, can be covered by only one social security system at a time. And the goal of this principle is to make sure that the worker is always covered without confusion about which social security system applies to a mobile worker, and to avoid situations in which somebody might contribute to two or more social security systems. And then we have the main rule, the country, the member state where a person works, or the country where the activity is performed, is the country which is responsible for the social security system of that worker. This rule is referred to as lex loci laboris. However, there are important exceptions to this rule. These are posting and multi-state activity, and this is what we'll be talking about today, these exceptions to lex loci laboris. Because the driver in international road transport, that driver is not only working in the member state of residence, but working across different EU countries, and therefore this driver is covered by these exceptions. So in this slide, we wanted to present to you the main differences between posting and multi-state activity. As you can see from this slide, posting refers to a work on a temporary basis in another member state. This is typically an ad hoc arrangement and has a temporary nature. So posting in Social Security refers to a situation in which a worker is sent by their employer to work on the territory of another member state temporarily while maintaining social security coverage in the home country. The worker or the employer, they continue to pay contributions in the home country's system instead of the country where a worker is temporarily working in. So posting is not meant for long-term ongoing assignments in other countries. On the other hand, we have multi-state activity, which is a work pattern involving work in multiple member states as a regular working arrangement, as a regular system of cross-border work. The duration of activity is actually essential here, whether this is a long-term activity or ad hoc or the activity of temporary nature. And what is decisive here is what is described in the employment contract, especially as regards on the place of work. And the employment contract should match the factual situation of the worker. You can see that there are also differences in requesting the issuing of the A1 certificate of portable document A1. In case of posting, the employer needs to inform the competent institution in the state of insurance and request the PDA1. And in this case, the anticipated duration of the work of the driver cannot be longer than 24 months. In case of multi-state activity, it is the worker that needs to inform the competent institution in the state of residence. And but we see in practice that it is often that employers actually contact the competent institution on behalf of the worker, and this is accepted by competent institutions. They accept this and they rely on their national procedures in this regard. The competent institutions, they issue the portable document A1 typically for 24 months for multi-state activities, and they reassess the situation of a worker after that. And there's a possibility to extend the portable document A1, which subsequently leads to less administrative burden for the worker and for companies. And we here at the end of this slide, you can have a look at some of the statistics related to road transport, to be more specific, road freight transport, because the statistical report of the European Commission unfortunately contains only information about road freight transport. From the statistical data, you will see that only around 1.5% of PDA1s issued under Article 12 refer to road transport sector. From this, we can conclude that actually posting is in road transport is an exceptional situation. And 40% of PDA1s issued under Article 13 refer to road transport sector. As you can see, almost every second PDA1 issued under Article 13 is refers to road transport sector. And having this in mind, we'll explain in more detail the application of Article 13. So who can be regarded as working in 2 or more member states? This is a person who performs one or more activities in 2 or more member states for the same employer or for various employers. These activities can be performed simultaneously or in alternation. And a typical example of activities being performed simultaneously is an international road transport driver driving through territories of different member states. When we talk about activities performed in alternation, meaning successive work assignments carried in different member states, the example of this would be a business representative who works, for example, for 9 months in one member state, and then for the remaining 3 months returns to the country of residence and works there. So how to determine which member state legislation applies to a mobile worker? First, we need to determine which is the member state of residence of the mobile worker. This is the first step. And the regulations have a specific concept in mind, meaning the habitual residence of the worker, of the driver, or the place where the center of interest of the driver is. There is a list of criteria in the regulations, and competent institutions rely on this list of criteria to assess the member state of residence of this mobile worker. These criteria include the duration of presence on the territory of a member state, family ties, family situation, housing situation, etc. So the decision on the member state of residence is actually made by the competent institution and not by the person concerned. After determining the member state of residence, we need to determine whether the worker performs a substantial activity in the member state of residence, meaning 25% or more. For this purpose, the working time and remuneration are taken into account. Marginal activities are disregarded for this purpose, meaning activities accounting for less than 5% of workers' regular working time or less than 5% of his regular overall remuneration. So if substantial activity, meaning 25% or more, is performed in the member state of residence, the legislation of the member state of residence applies. If not, in this case, the legislation of the member state where the company has its registered office or place of business is applicable to the mobile worker. For example, we could have a Czech driver who is working for Austrian company and drives only to Germany. And this person, he commutes every day to work to Austria. He doesn't perform a substantial part of activities in Czechia. Therefore, the Czech legislation is not applicable to this driver, but Austrian legislation or the legislation of the member state where the company has its registered office. And now the competent institution determined which is actually the country, the member state of applicable legislation, and the institution issues the A1 certificate, the portable document A1. So what is PDA1? This is a document that declares the situation of the worker. It is important because it certifies that a worker is covered by social security system of one member state while working on the territory of another EU member state. It ensures that payments are made only to one social security system, and it proves that this worker is compliant with EU legislation and that this worker or driver is working legally on the territory of another EU member state. The PDA1 document is issued both in case of posting and in case of multi-state activity, and it's typically issued before the work on the territory of another member state starts. In Social Security, there is an obligation for the worker and the company to inform the competent institution, competent Social Security institution, about the worker's situation and to request the issuing of PDA1. However, there is no obligation for this driver to carry PDA1 with him while working on the territory of another member state or on the territory or across EU countries. This issue has been raised and has been discussed before the Administrative Commission for Coordination of Social Security Systems, and member states presented their notes, and the European Commission also presented its note based on the opinion of its legal service, presenting the opinion that this is not incompatible with EU law. Therefore, we recommend the drivers to carry this portable document A1 with them, the A1 certificate with them, while working across EU countries in case there is a roadside inspection or in case authorities of another member state want to verify the social security status of this mobile worker. PDA1 can be issued retroactively, but this should be done only in exceptional circumstances. For example, if you have some urgent situation, like in the case when a worker falls ill and you need to replace him with another worker. In general, it should be requested whenever possible in advance, and regulations especially emphasize this in case of posting. Not having a PDA1 does not mean that the situation of a worker is illegal, because the situation of this worker exists whether or not this worker or the driver carries PDA1 with him. So the portable document A1, as we mentioned, declares the situation of a worker as it is. And in this slide, there are some key points that we would like you to take after this presentation. And these are that the driver that is or will be involved in international road transport should apply for portable document A1. And the request for PDA1 should be submitted whenever possible in advance. The drivers are strongly recommended to carry a portable document A1 with them when working in another across EU countries or on the territory of another member state other than the state of residence. And from Ella's side, we organize the information sessions to raise awareness, to raise knowledge about EU legislation, but we also encourage member states to provide all relevant information on their national websites and to also to share information with operators and drivers. With this, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you indeed for providing clarification on this important topic as well. And as we did for the previous topic on driving and rest time rules, we would now hear a short report about the experience of the relevant road transport association regarding posting of drivers in passenger transport and how these rules have been put into practice. This time, we'll first hear a report from Sarah from the BDO, which is actually an IRU member association from Germany. So, dear Sarah, if you could please take the floor.
Hello again. So concerning the A1 certificate and the control of the A1 certificate, because the statement that I'm going to make is mainly about the control. The problem that operators and drivers face is that there is a mosaic of different control regulations in the different member states of the EU. Some member states mandate immediate presentation of the A1 certificate at roadside check or risk of an on-spot fine. Others permit the employer to submit evidence of the A1 certificate to the competent either authority, enforcement authority, or social security authority within a specified time frame, which allows to continue operations without interruption for the driver, so the journey, I mean. And there are a minority of countries that have adopted a hybrid approach where they are also accepting digital screenshots, meaning electronic copies of the A1 certificate. And the problem is, what I want to point out is that these divergent practices generate much confusion for operating cross-border services. And they raise my question right now if they could be an updated and official comparative overview of each member state's approach to the A1 verification, especially whether immediate presentation of the certificate is required, if a digital copy suffice, or if inspection or if post-inspection submission is permitted. That would greatly help, I think, the day-to-day work life of drivers and operators. And furthermore, if at some point they could be a consideration to harmonize these rules on EU level. Like I said in the beginning, it's mainly for the easier day-to-day work of drivers and operators on the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, indeed. And next up on the same subject, we have Guy van Hifte from ETF. So Guy, please, the floor is yours.
I'm going to try, Ivan, to be brief, so because it's important that everybody can have the floor when they ask it. For us, is the social security and the respect for social security is one of the most important issues and things that have to be followed in the European Union. Concerning what Sarah says about the A1, I 100% agree with her because she is the representative of the employers, and I'm the representative from a part of the coach drivers in Europe, associated with all our unions here in Europe. When I'm listening to the complexity from the A1 form, I have one big question to Ella. Please inform also in the next months and in the next years when you do some actions concerning coach drivers, make the drivers aware from the problem from the A1. The A1 can be very useful. I'm 100% agree, but I have some doubts when I speak once again with drivers that coming from outside, for example, from Belgium, where I live, and I ask them, and I see them often here in Bruges, and when I ask them, do you know what the A1 is? Then a lot of them, they tell us, we don't know. Almost everybody. And A1 can be very important for the remuneration for these guys and girls coming from most of all the Eastern European countries, but also a lot of Western European countries. That can be important also when they are checked by legislation officers, by controllers, by checkers. So that's something I believe is very important. And the last point that I want to say about A1, A1 is even as what Arthur says in the previous round, is very complicated for the drivers. That's something probably we have to work on in the future, together with ELA, together with IRU, together with ETF. Thanks.
Thank you, Guy, for sharing your view. And in the meanwhile, we noticed that Oleg raised a hand. So, Oleg, please.
Very quickly on three topics. First, the PDF for PD A1 form. For the first time, I hear from Daniela, and this is very important to notice, is that there is a recommendation already to have the PDA1 form on board. This is something that we have to consider, and there is currently ongoing a revision of the Social Security Coordination regulations, and probably we have to think about very strongly about the digitalization of this form, which will help tremendously its implementation and its availability on board and its control. That's one. Two, on what Arthur was presenting, yes, he is absolutely right to direct our attention to the scenarios that have been created within the posting of drivers expert group. They are good. They are actually the basis for both for operators and enforcers to understand what is posting and what is not posting in passenger transport. And we have one advantage, I think, very clear advantage, and actually in the passenger transport side, that the posting situations are clearer, from my opinion, in passenger transport than in goods transport. So that is something that everybody has to refer to, the scenarios that are available on the DG Move website. One thing on controls. We are at the moment working together with member states, together with ELA, on controls of remuneration in posting. And we are practically, I would say, closely close to actually agreeing on how to control that at the roadside and through the IMI. I believe that when we agree on that in the coming weeks, potentially because I see DG Move is now issuing a recommendation on how to enforce the new driving rest time rules on coach tourism. Potentially, when we agree within this work about how to control, how to make controls in posting, basically it could be thinkable, and you could even recommend it to actually submit that recommendation to the posting of drivers expert group of the commission, and potentially, if we agree within it, to actually issue it as a guidance note as well, to actually harmonize the controls of both roadside and through the IMI on posting. Thank you.
Thank you, Oleg. Wait, I would like to just step in to maybe comment what we just heard, because we're very glad to hear actually many references to the Social Security presentation, because this year it is actually a Social Security year sort of theme for ELA. So we try to make a lot of activities to promote the, let's say, awareness about the obligations and about the rights with regards to Social Security. But hearing your interventions, I would like to maybe point to few things. First, PDA1 documents are not new documents. So Guy, I fully understand what you're saying. Drivers are still not aware, but these are not new documents. Yes. So there is a sort of common responsibility among all of us to make sure, and it's been there for years, yes, that PDA1s are there, you know, to be sort of to be so that the drivers are in possession of them. So it's not a new rule. It's no, you know, it hasn't been introduced yesterday. So it means that, you know, at a certain point we forgot maybe about the awareness raising. We're here, of course, to, you know, to promote it, but it's not a new thing. Second, as we mentioned, coordination, the rules on social security coordination are just coordination. There is no harmonization. Okay, so we will still have national rules which EU law tries to coordinate, but there could still persist national solutions, and we have to have it in mind. Okay, so we understand when we speak about driving and rest time and common enforcement and everything, that's a separate topic. Here we speak about coordination, not harmonization. And then when it comes to enforcement, and I really take note of what Sarah, you mentioned about, you know, that there would be good to see an overview of different enforcement practices. Absolutely. We are trying to understand. We made our surveys as well among the enforcement authorities. But maybe on the other side, if we trip, you know, the coin, what we would be recommending is that the enforcement in every country will be easier if operators make sure that their drivers have PDA1. Okay, so in a sense, you could overcome many problems if you make sure that the driver has the PDA1 with him. And then, of course, member states in the meantime, and Oleg, you're right about digitalization, it is extremely important, but member states already, a lot of them undertook already solutions to digitalize the process of application for a PDA1, and also to issue the PDA1 with QR codes that are possible to be verified. Their validity and authenticity could be verified at the roadside, even by scanning the QR code on the PDA1s. So there is a lot of development at national level on the digitalization, and of course we at every occasion we are trying to promote these national solutions that you know, make it easier. On top of that, of course, there is the EU laws that are, as I said, not quite new, and they are being revised. It's been quite a few years that they try to, you know, conclude the revision in Brussels, and it might be that we will have some, you know, finalization quite soon. And last but not least, as you said, Oleg, whether posted or not posted, according to the scenarios that you have seen today, the driver has to have the PDA1, because the posting rules and the posting rules according to 883 are not the same. Okay, so it's not that if you are not under the posting situation according to the scenario that you just seen, it means that, you know, no member state can actually ask whether you have a PDA1. The obligation, as you heard today, whether there is an obligation to have a PD1, what does that mean if you don't have it? This is that there is no direct, let's say, answer to this, because PD1 is just certifies your situation. It doesn't create the coverage of Social Security. It just certifies that you are covered. So indeed, we understand fully that there are no easy answers in the Social Security field. However, we as ELA promote having a PDA1. It helps enforcement. It promotes the awareness of the driver about his rights. So we think that's the, let's say, the easiest and the good way. So we will keep promoting, let's say, applying for a PD1 before the work in international context starts, and of having it whenever doing work in multiple member states. With that, Ivan, back to you. Thank you.
So thank you all. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Oleg, for providing your view. And also thank you, Ivana, for providing this additional explanation on this, I would say, rather important topic. With this, we are reaching the end of today's information session. But before we end, we still have a couple of points on the agenda. As we did before, we would also now present some of the most relevant questions which we received from you in advance. Same as last time, I will read the question out loud, and we would also post them into the chat so to have them in writing as well. So let me start with the first question, and I would kindly ask Seamus to help us with answering this one. Seamus, so the question is the term cabotage used in tour bus transport across the EU?
Thank you, Ivan. Yes, cabotage does occur in passenger transport as well as freight. There can be cabotage in both regular passenger services and in cabotage. So, in regular passenger service, cabotage basically involves the picking up and setting down of passengers within the same member state during the course of an international service. And for control officers at the roadside, it's quite easy to identify because it should be written on the actual authorization that they must obtain in the first instance to allow them to engage in international regular lines. So if cabotage is allowed in one of the countries that form part where these predetermined stops are, if cabotage is allowed, that note will be written on the front of the authorization. And as regards occasional passenger services, yes, you can also have cabotage, which is something different to local excursions, which you heard Arthur explain earlier on during his presentation. An example would have been, if I can remember correctly, one of his slides depicted an occasional passengers. Oh no, that was regular actually. Yeah, no, I don't think he had one in occasional. But if I can just maybe give you an example from the top of my head, if you had an operator from the Czech Republic, for example, who goes unladen into Germany and picks up a pre-constituted group of passengers in Munich and brings them on an occasional passenger service to Cologne, that would be cabotage. So yeah, so there the cabotage, yes, does exist in passenger transport. Thank you.
If you could just turn off. Perfect. James, thank you for this. And we still have yet another question for you. So what is the maximum period a bus can operate abroad before it must return to its country of registration?
Okay, in relation to this question, I presume it's asking about the return of the vehicle, which was a condition of establishment introduced by the mobility package back in 2021, I think it was, or two, whatever. But that new condition of establishment, which was added by the mobility package, no longer exists. It was annulled by a European Court of Justice decision in October 2024. But what does apply is that the return of the driver. So the operator is still obliged to organise the work schedule of his drivers in such a way that they are able to return to either the member state of establishment or to their own residence at least once every 4 weeks. So that's that one.
Thank you, Seamus, for clarifying this as well. And we are moving to additional two questions. So the first one is, what are the conditions for legal posting? And for this one, I would kindly ask Ivona to help us with providing the answer. So Ivona, please.
Ivan, indeed, we have received a couple of questions which are a bit broad and probably would require even a session per se to be organized on them. So when we speak about conditions for legal posting, such a general question should be answered that, of course, when it comes to posting itself, not yet posting of drivers, but posting itself, there are specific directives regarding posting rules. Yes, so we call it in the jargon, we call them mother directive of posting, which is a directive from 1996. And this directive has been revised in 2018. And also it has additional directive, which is called an enforcement directive, which was adopted in 2014. These rules apply to posting rules in general. To some extent, to limited extent, they are also applicable to the posting of drivers, but most of the rules in posting of drivers have been actually adopted in the so-called lex specialis, so a specific set of rules only for posting of drivers. This lex specialis only refers to one category of drivers, so another layer of complexity. There are some drivers that only apply the general rules of posting and some drivers that only fall under the lex specialis. So that is the situation of posting is quite complex, and we understand that. That's why we make yet another session to actually explain these rules. So what is important is that in general, posting means providing services in another country. So it is a difference between the freedom of movement of workers when a driver or a worker changes his place of residence or center of interest and goes to work in another member state. Here, the driver or the worker is still sort of has a member state of establishment from where, together with his employer, because the service is provided by the employer with the help of his workers. Yes, so this is a provision of services. It's not the freedom of movement of workers, it's the freedom to provide services. And that distinction between these two freedoms in the internal market changes quite substantially the rules. So it is important distinction. I know it's not that clear to understand immediately what maybe I refer to if I don't go into details, but we do not have that much time to actually go into details. However, just to make it quicker again, the posting rules have a specific set of conditions for a legal posting. They are all in Article 4 of the Enforcement Directive on posting of workers. Yes, and these rules apply to normal, let's call it stationary posting, and the two categories of posted drivers that are not covered by lex specialis, which are drivers posted through temporary employment agencies and driver posted via intra-group posting. The other category, drivers driving directly, let's say, on behalf of their employer, employed by the direct employer who was the provider of the service, they are covered under the lex specialis of which is the directive 1057 from 2020. So maybe just the reference to rules will help.
Thank you, Ivana, for this as well. And yet another question for you: by which amount has the number of posted drivers increased, and which countries are they primarily coming from? Are there any concerns or challenges associated with these developments?
Yes, this question is actually very interesting because we have been in ELA analyzing the statistics on the number of posted drivers since we started receiving the statistics from the so-called RTPD portal. As you know, DG Grow is collecting data on all the declarations submitted to all of the member states through the portal. So far, we have millions, 50 millions of the declarations, but we know that the declaration might not be the exact tool to tell us the number of posted drivers. So what we think is actually we should concentrate on the number of registered drivers in the RTPD portal. In 2024, we had 1,175,000 drivers registered. That was the number of the drivers registered. Whether all of them were posted in 2024, that is difficult to say. I doubt that all of them were posted. However, these were drivers registered by their employers, in a sense, active in the internal market. On the other hand, we have another data, which is the data on the PDA1s issued in 2023 on the basis of Article 13 and on the basis of Article 12. And from there, we also see, for example, the total number of PDA1s is almost 2 million, the ones issued on the basis of Article 13. But as you could have seen on the slide of Daniela, only 40% of these refer to road transport. So what I'm trying to say is there is there are sources of information to which we can refer when trying to estimate how many posted drivers there are on the internal market, but it is not, uh, let's say, very easy to come up with a one quite, let's say, concrete number, which would be backed by any concrete data. So it's an intersection between different sources that are, let's say, estimate, and that could not entirely reflect posting when we refer to posting based on the posting directives, because if we refer to posting based on social security, it's yet another concept. So in other sense, we do not see the, let's say, fully growing trend of posted drivers. We see the numbers being quite stable when it comes to the registration of these drivers in the RTPD. The initial growing trend was also linked to the growing awareness about the obligation to have a declaration, growing awareness about the obligation to, let's say, apply for a PDA1. So the growing numbers might not immediately reflect the growing phenomenon of posting. They may reflect also growing awareness about the obligations. So here we try to also work with colleagues from KU Leuven. Maybe some of you know the university in Belgium who works on the statistics to understand whether the numbers are growing, whether posting in road transport is a growing phenomenon. We think it is quite consistent phenomenon, but it's very hard to make a declaration at this stage that it's absolutely growing. The countries, just to finish, the countries of the origin, depending on the tool and source we're using. So when it comes to posting declarations, they mostly come from Poland and Lithuania. When it comes to PDA ones, the most issuing countries when it comes to Article 13, so the work in multiple state, is Poland, Spain, Italy, Germany, Lithuania. So these are, let's say, the statistics we gathered for you, but again, it's hard to declare one concrete data at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivona. Thank you indeed for answering this and also for presenting this interesting data, which is really useful, I would say. So now I would like to give floor to Remy Russotto, who is a Chief Executive Officer from CORTE, who will address us with a couple of closing remarks. So Remy, I can already see you on the video, so please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Ivan. Thank you to all, and thank you first of all for being all here today. So as you know, just to put this into context, this is an online session. We are doing quite a few this year as part of a program that we started with Ella, so CORTE and Ella and CORTE last year. The focus being, yes, as we're saying now, on enforcement and on building what we call road transport community. So yes, we try to train enforcers, and we will do so again this week in Germany for a number of countries, and we will do this for the whole of Europe this year again. But we also try, as we're doing today, to establish as strong partnership links, connections with you, so operators, the trade unions, the drivers, and so on, so that we really continue, and this is continuous, continue to build this strong road transport community. So we started this together with Ella, so we're very glad, CORTE and Ella, to participate in this effort. We started this last year. We're doing so this year again. Yes, it's enforcement. There's quite some focus on the roadside, but not only. We are looking, yes, at whatever is new in the rules. So most of them were explained to you today in the occasional passenger transport, the driving times and the posting. But we also, as Ivona was doing now, and as we always do, we need to look at what is established since a long time and what is the acquis. So the effort we're trying to do, and this is, I think, the constant work, is to build on what we know together with you and to take in whatever is happening that is new in the mobility package, or anything else that would be introduced in the future. So it's just to say, this is my first point. The work is ongoing. We're doing this with you. And second point, and I mentioned it now, is the importance of this community. So we need you, all of you, to ask the questions, to come to these meetings, to continue to challenge us and others in the text and the practice and the tools and the evidence. And it comes often to the evidence. So what is the document that a driver has to present? What is the valid document? What format? What data has to be contained? So a lot of it comes back to this. So we try together with Ella and CORTE to work on this year. We have a big focus on the evidence and how do enforcers use the evidence, and on the other side, how do you, operators, drivers, trade, and so on, have to be prepared, as Ivona was mentioning just now, also with old documents or documents that have been there since a number of years, have to be prepared with documentation that you will be asked to present either on the road or afterward in company inspections or so on. So constant work ongoing in a community where we need, yes, your feedback. So we build this together. So yes, so we will do this together with enforcers this week in Germany. And continue, yes, to establish this effort to basically come to a common understanding of the rules, a common understanding of what drivers can expect on the road. So all this is as well as understood as well as possible. So this brings me just to the thank you note. Thank you to Ella. Thank you to the experts, to Hans and Arthur, for presenting again today and for presenting all this material also to enforcers this week. So we're glad to, well, again this year cover the whole of the EU plus a number of countries, EEA, Switzerland, so you know that at the end of the year, as we did last year, there are hundreds of people that will have gone through these trainings throughout Europe. So thank you very much. Thank you to Ella. Thank you for participating today, and please send any question you would have, and we will look at them closely. Thank you.
Thank you, Remy, and thank you for your contribution and for these kind words as well. And before we end, I would like to thank all the speakers and experts. I would like to thank European Commission and CORTE, but above all, I would like to thank the participants for showing interest in this event. Thank you very much to you all, and I hope seeing you soon at one of the ELA or CORTE events in future. We wish you a lovely rest of the week. Goodbye all.